The house was silent, but not safe. Every night, at the same hour, the silence broke. At first, only a creak, a whisper, a faint scrape against the wall. Harmless sounds until they grew louder, until the walls themselves began to breathe, until shadows moved where no light fell. And every night, just past 3:03 a.m., something stirred in the dark, something that should never have been born. They say evil is ancient, that it sleeps beneath us, that it waits to be invited. Claire didn't believe that, not until the night it came into her home, not until the night it was born in the dark. Claire lived in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where nothing ever seemed to happen. She had moved into the house alone, imagining it as a safe haven, a place where she could rebuild her life. But in the silence of winter nights, the house began to reveal its secret. It started small, a scrape, like nails dragging slowly against wood, easy to dismiss. Then the scraping grew louder, sharper, closer, and then came the breathing, raspy, uneven, lungs pulling air through soil. It wasn't hers, it wasn't human. Every night, she lay in bed frozen, listening to the groan of the floorboards under invisible weight. Every night, she prayed for silence, but silence never lasted. One night, hunger drove her to the kitchen. She stopped in the doorway. The refrigerator door was wide open. Food she had bought the day before, meat, bread, even fruit, was shredded. Bones split, plastic torn. A trail of blood snaked across the tiles, vanishing mid-step as though it had melted back into darkness. The air was thick with the stench of rot and wet earth. And then she saw it. At the far end of the hall, crouched low, head tilted, mouth stretched into a grin too wide, she blinked. It was gone, but the smell lingered. The next night, the noise moved above her head. Crawling, slow, heavy thuds circled in the attic. Dust rained from the ceiling with every drag, as if something enormous paced just a few feet above her. Helen's hands shook as she pulled the ladder down. The attic hatch groaned open, a rush of stale air spilling over her. She climbed, flashlight trembling in her grip, and pushed her head into the dark. Boxes, shadows, silence, then movement. Something shifted behind a crate. She swung the light and froze. A hand dangled over the edge, pale, fingers bent backward, twitching. She gasped, and in an instant it snapped back, vanishing. Her beam flickered. For a heartbeat, the darkness came alive. Dozens of eyes glowed back at her, fixed, unblinking. Her throat closed. Then one leaned forward, a face upside down, jaw unhinged, skin stretched too thin to be human. She screamed. The attic erupted. Limbs skittered across the rafters, nails scraping wood. Shapes crawled sideways, backward, upside down, faces pressed against beams, mouths opening in silent laughter that built into a broken, echoing chorus. Boxes toppled. Dust choked the air. Her flashlight spun across the room, slicing images of horrors into her mind. A child's body with a face too old, a mouth torn open to the ear, fingers stretching longer than arms. She stumbled, scrambling for the ladder, but the hatch slammed shut above her. Her light caught a cracked mirror. Her reflection stared back, but its grin was wide, teeth blood-stained, eyes hollow. And behind her, faces leaned close, their mouths moving in unison. She shrieked, slammed against the hatch, and at last it gave. She fell through, crashing to the floor below. Scrambling up, she shoved it shut and stumbled back. Silence. Then a thud. The wood rattled. Another thud. The ceiling creaked as if something huge pressed against it. Then from the cracks around the hatch, faint eyes glowed, staring down, watching, waiting. At 3:03 a.m., the faucet turned on by itself. Claire crept into the bathroom. The mirror was fogged, though no steam filled the room. One word appeared in dripping letters. B-O-R-N. Her breath caught. Behind her, the door creaked. She spun. Nothing. When she turned back, the letters had smeared into 2 words. Born hungry. Desperate for safety, Claire left every lamp burning. But at 3:03, every bulb shattered at once. Sparks hissed. Darkness swallowed the house. Her flashlight cut through the black. On the wall, new claw marks carved themselves into the plaster, slow and deliberate. A shadow slid across the floor, long, thin, stretching. Her beam caught it. A figure crouched in the corner, limbs too long, skin gray, dripping, jaw cracked open wider than a human skull should allow. Empty sockets gleamed like animal eyes. It twitched once. Then the flashlight died. Silence pressed in. That night, scratching came from the closet. She couldn't bear it, but she opened the door. Clothes swayed. Behind them, the walls split open. A wet, black tunnel, chewed open by something alive. The scratching grew louder. A pale hand shot out, gripping her ankle so hard her bone nearly cracked. She screamed, kicked free, slammed the door. From inside, muffled laughter echoed. The smell of soil dragged her down into the basement. Damp, heavy, metallic, it clung to her throat, as if the earth itself had rotted beneath the house. Each step groaned as she descended, the single bulb above swinging and casting long, warped shadows across the stone walls. The air grew colder, pressing in against her chest. Something down here was waiting. Her light caught a cradle in the far corner. Ancient wood, splintered and dark, the wood stained black with years of something she couldn't name. The cradle rocked ever so slightly, though no breeze stirred. Inside, a bundle of filthy rags twitched, slow, uneven, breathing. Helen's hand trembled as she raised her light. The rags shifted again, parting like old skin. And then she saw it. A face, infant-like in shape, but stretched wrong, as if carved from wax and left too close to the fire. Its gums split open with jagged needle-like teeth, jutting at every angle. Its eyes were not eyes at all, but pits of endless dark, swallowing the light whole. She froze, unable to breathe. The thing twitched once, then lifted its head. It screamed. A shrill, broken wail tore through the basement, the sound cutting into her ears, into her bones. Not the cry of a child, but something older, crueler, something that should never have been born. The walls shuddered. From the shadows, something enormous stirred. She heard at first a low, guttural dragging, the groan of heavy limbs moving across the dirt floor. A shape, larger than the furnace, shifted in the darkness. Too wide, too tall. She didn't wait to see it. She fled. Her feet pounded the steps, her breath choking in her throat. The screaming didn't stay behind. It followed her, rising, echoing not just in the basement, but inside the walls. Pipes clanged as the cry traveled upward. Air vents rattled as the shriek forced itself through. By the time she slammed the basement door, the house itself was screaming with it. And above, in the ceiling, she swore she heard claws dragging across the wood as if something was climbing upward, following her. But once it's born, it never stops crying. At 3:03, weight crushed her chest. She opened her eyes. Inches from her face it hovered, skin peeling, head split. Dozens of voices shrieked inside its skull, laughing, begging, crying. Its hand covered her mouth, fingers sinking into her skin. She gagged on the smell of rot. Then, just as suddenly, it vanished. The sheets beside her were damp, warm. The wall above her bed was gouged with words. I am here. She dreamed of tunnels, crawling through black soil that pulsed like flesh. Something followed, breathing, whispering her name. When she awoke, her nails were packed with dirt, soil covered her sheets. The nightmare was real. She tried to run. Outside, the trees whispered. Branches bent toward her, clawing at her hair. She turned. In her upstairs window, it stood, watching, grinning, one hand against the glass, leaving trails of black. She dialed for help. Static answered. Then voices. Hundreds. Screaming, laughing, crying. Her phone screen filled with letters written in black. You invited me. She fled into the garden, but the earth shifted beneath her feet. The ground split open. Pale arms reached up, clawing at her ankles. She stumbled back as the soil swallowed them again. From beneath, a whisper rose. Born. 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 In her living room, she caught movement in the mirror. Not her own reflection. The thing stood behind her, taller, twisted, its grin stretching too wide. She turned. Nothing. When she looked back, the reflection leaned closer. Its whisper crawled from the glass. You are mine. She left the house, moved far away. New apartment, new locks, lights always on. At 3:03, her phone buzzed, motion detected. She looked at the feed. The couch cushions sank. A figure rose slowly, pale, grinning, empty sockets. It turned, stared at the camera, stared at her. Her phone slipped from her hands. A second later, the doorknob to her bedroom turned. The footage cut to static. The screen died, but the microphone kept recording. Silence. Then breathing. Wet, ragged, uneven. Each inhale scraped like broken glass dragged through a throat. Each exhale dripped, thick and heavy, as though the lungs themselves were rotting. It grew louder, closer, shifting across the room. The floor creaked. Something scraped against the walls. Then, silence. A whisper rose, not one voice, but hundreds, layered and rasping, crawling through the speakers like a swarm. I was born in the night, and I will never leave. The words stretched and cracked, dissolving into a chorus of broken laughter. The screen cut to black. But just before the recording ended, the breathing started again, this time right beside the microphone.